Okay, got ourselves some chicken, and I didn't have to chase it around the parking lot. $6. I was gonna buy two, but I don't have a basket on the bicycle. The main reason I do this, it gives me an excuse to get out on the bicycle and get some exercise, which I wouldn't do. If I had to go to a gym to get exercise, I wouldn't do it. It's not my thing. Then I'll go home and move some engine parts. Oh, what did I drop? Oh, there goes that. No big deal. Someone's taking a selfie. There we are. All right, there we go. You can experience the true Miami lifestyle. Yep. English is not spoken here. This is optional. Inglés? No. No habla inglés. Okay. That's a pretty good sized bicycle with tires. It's not electric either. That's amazing. All right. Okay, here we go. All right. There we go from Extra Supermarket. I'm going to go back a little bit different way because I want to show you a disaster that I actually avoided many years ago, back when I was taking care of my mom. There's a lot of traffic noise. I hope you can hear me. But anyway, earlier I was talking about the dangers to the power grid. And here's some more lines going along the road. These lines are long. They act like antennas. There's the rooster. Hello, rooster. Oh, there's hens under the, look at that. It's got hens under the car over there. Whenever you'll find a rooster, you'll find some hens. That's just the way that it is. Anyway. And we're riding into the wind. Okay. Go through the trailer park. University Lakes Trailer Park. The next apartment buildings will be coming here. All right, let's see what we got here. Are they going to stop? Hopefully they will. Someone's having a barbecue in the middle of the road. That's cute. Yep, good old trailer park. They got this stupid hill over here that you can't get through, which is a real pain. Fall down this thing. Well, they do everything to make it difficult for the pedestrian, let me tell you. They don't think about anything. Everything is car related. There we go. Okay. Oh well. Hey, at least it's a little cooler. I'm still sweating, but it's in the 70s instead of the 80s. Things are looking pretty good weather-wise. When I get home, I'm going to work on my truck. And that'll be that. They even put a fence there. I see people are climbing over it. This used to be like their empty lot, and then they built this apartment building. I think, yeah, they had to be apartments. I remember when they built this about 25 years ago. Lots of apartments. That's all they grow down here. Anyway, everything that we live around is connected to the electrical grid. Now, because of that, a failure of the grid can be a life-changing experience. I mean, think about it. If the grid fails, none of these traffic lights will work. You won't be able to get gas because they use electricity to pump gas into the cars. Now, some stations do have generators, but internet will go down, cell phones will go down, communications won't exist. Now, in the old days, you might have still had the landlines because back then, the landlines were actually powered by DC generators at that time, independent of the grid. when the power went off. Like in Hurricane Andrew, when we lost all our power, there was no problem with the phone. All right, here we go. Okay. This restaurant, Bajito Restaurant, that's been there at least 30 years. There's a few businesses that do tend to stay around. Okay. Well, again, it's not that hard to protect yourself against a CME. Coronal mass ejection, not too bad. You can do it. Trouble is the EMP. The EMP, which is caused by a nuclear weapon, is a very quick and somewhat unpredictable disaster. And the magnetic field generated is closer, so you're going to get all three destructive waves, starting with the very first, or the E1, then the second and the third. And they happen in a relatively short amount of time. So the E1 destroys anything that acts as an antenna. Your cell phone could be fried. Anything with a microprocessor that uses some kind of memory or software, that could be destroyed. Many cars won't even run. Now, a lot of it depends on the position of the car and your location. If you're far enough away from the EMP, you may experience no effect. The CME will travel all around the Earth because of the size of the sun and the direction that the energy goes out. But the EMP is unpredictable. Now, with that being said, there's actually another problem. A lot of the things that we have, including the power grid, are controlled by microprocessors and communications. Those go down, they may not be able to control anything from a central location. If people exist at a remote location, they should be able to override the systems and prevent further damage. But the more that they rely on automation and artificial intelligence, the more vulnerable we become to an EMP. And that right there is the scary part. So every time that a new data center is built, more AI is deployed, we're getting less and less secure from a possible EMP. Now again, in order to launch an EMP, a nation would have to have nuclear weapons and the capability of launching them into the upper atmosphere in effective position. So it's unlikely that a rogue state like North Korea would do it. But however, Russia, they could do it. There are other nations that could do it. Now, they may not do it over the US, but if they did it over maybe Europe, there could be effects in the US, because this energy could travel from one place to the other, and that is a big problem. So, again, if you're worried about EMP, you need to take into account all the possibilities of EMP effect. All right. Now, what can we do about EMP? That's a good question. There are many people on YouTube that have talked about ways of protecting yourself from EMP. That seems to be a very popular subject. So I think in many ways, understanding what EMP is your very first weapon against EMP. So that's one of those things that nobody really thinks about. EMP could be a big deal, or it could be nothing at all, depending on where you are. Well, let's say that you're in the range of the EMP. Say that it happens right over the United States. We're here in Florida, we're a little bit away from it, but in many ways, we're still going to be affected by it. So, what could happen? Well, let's say you're out there driving. You happen to be facing in a certain direction, you're driving a newer vehicle that has a connected CAN bus system that can act like an antenna, your car may be permanently disabled. Any car that uses updatable software is in danger. If you have a vintage car from the 1980s or earlier, especially 60s, 50s, whatever, they are totally EMP proof. If an EMP hits, you may get a slight miss, sort of boop, like a little misfire, and you're going to keep on going like nothing happened. If you're driving a vintage diesel all the way up to the 1990s, nothing's going to happen. Now, if you have a car built from the 80s on that has an onboard computer, your car may stop. But if it's an older computer, they're typically enclosed in an aluminum or steel casing, and they're bolted to the wall of the car. Any damage that takes place is going to be from any wires going in and out of the box. And that may not be fatal. So, depending on your vehicle, the condition, and where you are, most vehicles will stop. But in some cases, after the EMP waves have traveled through, you might be able to restart the car. The EMP may also damage or scramble some of the memory. So although the car will run, it may run a little strange. This could lead to a later failure of the computer. This can happen. Again, nobody knows for sure. There's never been a widespread test of what happens in an EMP. However, as an electronics hobbyist, I have actually built EMP generating devices. There are many ways of doing it. You can do it from something as simple as a Tesla coil. You can also do it from basically a microwave oven. There are many devices that can be used to create an EMP. And once the EMP is created, it's interesting what you can do with it. Now, a home-generated EMP device has a very limited effectiveness range. Generally, it's going to be effective within 30, 40 feet max, and that's it. So, that EMP that you see is going to be just for hobbyist purposes. I had a neighbor that would play their stereo very loud, and originally they were using a radio, so I would jam their signal, but they went to CDs at the time, so I used an EMP to blow up their stereo. I EMP'd that thing so many times. Every time they put a new stereo out there, within an hour it blew up. So it's not that hard to do. Any device that has semiconductors, like bipolar transistors, especially field effect transistors, are very susceptible to EMP. Very easy to destroy. And most of the computer memory, whether it be, EEPROM, EEPROM, whatever, is easily manipulated by EMP. Now, with that being said, what else can be a problem? Well, even power circuits that use transistors for voltage regulation, can also be damaged. And this is because the transistor junction typically is controlled by a base voltage. That base voltage could fluctuate with an EMP. It could also cause a breakdown of a simple junction, whether it be a diode or the PN junctions in a transistor. The older bipolar junction transistors typically had a metal case. They seem to be more resistant. Now, how do I know what EMP can do? When I built my portable EMP device, I decided it'd be kind of fun to see what electronic devices I could EMP and destroy. And this was back in the 90s, so I tried everything from 1990s cell phones, radios, stereos, televisions, all kinds of things. And I found with many devices, Most devices, when they're hit with the portable EMP, they simply shut down, or they give some kind of error. But in most cases, just allowing the device to turn off and restart will bring them back. Now, when I did the cell phone experiments, I actually was able to destroy Nokia phone, and I forget what the other one was. I still have those phones. It might have been a Sanyo, I don't remember. But I was able to easily destroy cell phones. Any cell phone that I ran past the EMP device was toasted. Most of the time, they wouldn't even boot up. You turn on the phone, maybe an LED goes on. Sometimes it did absolutely nothing. They just wouldn't turn on. So EMP versus phone was pretty straightforward, very easy to destroy. Now, what about EMP versus automobile? Well, I did that too. I had my neighbor, which I didn't like, was always calling the code enforcement. So I set up the EMP device inside of a wooden box in the front yard of my parents' house. And I went out there, and every time they wanted to start their car to go to work, I'd give it the EMP. I EMP'd that thing multiple times, and generally what would happen, the car would shut off and then it would start. Now this was back in the 90s. After a while, the car would start. Well, one day I noticed that the car wasn't there. And what had happened was they had the car towed. There was so much damage, I guess, to it that the car had to be towed back to the shop and work performed on it. After that, I no longer experimented with the EMP. I also did roadside EMP. And I'm going to admit it, because the statute of limitations is over, I even EMP'd a police car. Police cars used to love to follow me and try to stop me. So I put the EMP device in the back of my old truck, which had a wooden tailgate because the metal one had fallen off. And I had one time a cop, they always stop me and go and argue and get a ticket, whatever. And usually get to court, they dismiss the ticket anyway. The cop gets behind me. I said, I don't want to stop today. Puts on the lights. I hit the EMP. And the car stops. So I get off the road, up in front. I wait for him to pass. He doesn't pass. So I get back in my truck and just go. I figured if he's going to say that I tried to flee, I stopped. He didn't come up to me. So what, right? So anyway, that was pretty funny. And I have to admit, when I got home, I was laughing about it. I even told my dad about it. My dad at first was kind of upset, but he thought it was really funny. So I have to admit, I had a great time. Well, anyway, that being said, I have a little bit of experience with how EMPs work. And I think a lot of times when people are selling products, they try to scare you that the EMP is going to hit and everything's going to shut down, the whole world's going to stop. Okay. Well, yes, there's going to be some damage. There's no way around it. EMP is a threat, but it doesn't have to be life-changing. Well, it's life-changing. It doesn't have to be life-ending. So, what can you do to prepare for EMP? Well, first of all, you need a backup source of power. EMP can destroy anything, even devices not connected to the grid. Most of the portable generators that we have nowadays, they have electronic control modules in them. Those control modules can be fried. So, one thing you can do would be to get some of that mesh that's supposed to fight EMP and wrap your generator with it. What I do with the newer generator I have, I take the control boards out and I put them in metal cans. So that way if there is an EMP, it won't be damaged. But in most cases, if the generator is not operating, it's probably going to be fine because many of them, they have a metal plate around the control board. But again, it's hit or miss. There's no way that you can definitely say that the EMP is going to either destroy or not destroy your generator. Now, I don't know if you can see in front of me. I think this is still running. This is the FIU bridge that they're building. Now, back in 2018, I was taking care of my mom. They were putting up a bridge here. It's already been, 7 years? The bridge that they put up was some kind of precast concrete thing that looked pretty scary to me. And when I drove under it and I looked at it, I was like, I'm not going here anymore. I don't trust this thing. And a few days later, it collapsed. What we have now is a new version of it. Now, it was supposed to have this sort of cable stay design. The whole thing was prefabricated concrete. It was some rinky-dink El Cheapo design. Well, now, looks like they're using steel, a tried and true technology. And I have a feeling this is quite strong. So as you'll notice, I'm going underneath it. But this is the very spot where cars were parked here, the old bridge collapsed, and it crushed several cars and killed people. Just because of some engineer that didn't think, and a very incompetent construction company. If you look at the bridge, and I'm under it now, I don't think it's gonna fall. You can see that the bridge is pretty well made. Look at those beams. Things have gotta be an inch thick in the steel. Concrete base is heavy duty. There's 3 of them. And on the other end, you have a bridge pier that holds it up very nicely. I have a feeling that this is pretty good. Now, why can't I get this in my pocket? Oh, goodness, what is this? Stupid bag now is caught. This won't go in. Okay. I think I've got this caught. Oh, I see what it is. It went on the end of the bicycle handlebar. All right. So anyway, there's the bridge. I'm going to take a shortcut through FIU, which, despite being a university, is not pedestrian friendly. This is the university I went to back in the 80s and early 90s. Okay. None of this was here. This was all an empty lot. All these parking garages. Yep, there's no school today. Although the door's open, that's weird. Oh well. I guess you still have people that live here, so they have to have it open. University Police Department. These are all new buildings. Oh, the greenhouse was there. Oh, wow. Very interesting. I don't know where the tower used to be. There used to be an air control tower, which was the security department. I guess they must have torn it down when they built all the rest of these buildings. But that was a leftover from when this was an airport. Okay. Yep, not much traffic. That's good. Oh, I wonder what that fan was. It's got to be those lighting things. Oh, there we go. Okay. We'll go through here anyway. So, tower was in here. I know that. Oh well, I guess it's been torn down like everything else around here. There's where the library was. Yep, it was here. It's gone. Well, if you think about it, it's only a matter of time before we do face a disaster. Now, much of the electrical infrastructure, like around here at the university, is underground. So you might think, well, if the electrical infrastructure is underground, wouldn't that make it more resistant to EMP? And the answer is yes. Well, this whole building is still here. Well, that's weird. Oh well. Yeah, I'm sure they tore that down. There used to be a parking lot here, and they had the control tower. I don't know why they bothered to tear it down. It was pretty small. Oh well. Okay. We're getting there. It's turned into a rather large campus. The buildings here used to be spaced far apart. As I said, this was all a field. There was nothing here. There's the lake. Anyway, the best thing that we can do, in my opinion, to prepare for an EMP. Okay, that doesn't go through. The best thing to do would be to become familiar with what it can and cannot do. Oh, there's turtles over there. Oh, look at the iguana. You can't hunt anything at the university. They'll always harass you if you hunt the iguanas. But there's turtles over there. They're pretty nice. Understanding what the EMP is, what it can do, and that's the first step. Then, understanding, oh, wait a minute. Is that the control tower? It's still there? Don't tell me it's still there. Yeah, this is one of the old buildings. I recognized this when I was here. The Exene Mesa. Yep, I think that was a business department. I recognize this. Oh, it's still there. Wow, I can't believe it. They redid the top of it, but it's actually still there. Huh. How incredible. Wow. That's the only building left from the old airport. They did go around it. Well, that's cool. Look at that. Huh. How neat. They redid the top. The rest of the building is still the same. Wow, there it is. Huh. Wow, look at that. Still got the bricks and everything. The Tamiami Airport, now it's Veteran and Military Affairs. Huh. Wow. How interesting. And they got a bike rack here. Yeah, the wood is a little rotten, but oh, nice job. Okay. Well, you've restored my faith and sanity. They did a nice job fixing it up. The wood is rotten, though. I would have used treated wood. Wow. Hey, kitty cats. Oh, I can't believe it. Look at that. There used to be a parking lot here. I parked here many times, and that was the security office. But of course, back then, they had security. They didn't have their own police department like they do now. That building was there too. These are the new housing units, I think. It's kind of nice to come through here on the bicycle when there's no classes. Very nice. Anyway, well, at least I know where that is now. I thought it was gone. So again, I'm off the subject like I always am. If you want to protect yourself from EMP, I recommend, first of all, learning about it. Second of all, realize that survival in an EMP situation is probably not your main concern in terms of the EMP itself. It's going to be the people around you. So if you have close friends and family, educate them about what could happen in the EMP. If you do that, you're less likely to have people competing with you for what little resources you have. And with that being said, for yourself, you want to have some type of non-perishable food. Now, for those of us that are carnivores, this can be a real challenge. Our food generally needs to be refrigerated, and if we don't keep it refrigerated, it will go bad. All right, where do I go? That doesn't go through. This place is so unfamiliar. I feel like I'm in a different university. I gotta realize the last time I was a student here was 1992. 33 years ago? Okay. Wow. I am confused. I'm just following the sunlight. This has got to be it. Here comes the drop. Building something else here. Yeah, I know where I'm at. That's it. Okay. I don't see any students here either. Maybe they went home. And there's the park. All right. And these buildings are tall. All those floors. Wow. College Industrial Complex. There's never anything good in these dumpsters. Okay. Now the trick is to get to the park entrance, which is hopefully open. All right. Well, anyway, I don't want to bore everybody just constantly talking about nothing. But I'm going to wrap this up. And again, what I'm trying to stress here, and by the way, you'll notice the ground cover here, that's perennial peanut, which is a great foraging crop. What I'm going to stress here is pretty simple. You're going to have to deal with an EMP. Educate yourself on how it works. Educate others about the possibility. And, oh, it's open, good. And don't let it scare you. If we have any kind of event, if we have an EMP, we have a lot bigger problems than losing our power. That means that we're at war. And that's the time when people are going to do some really stupid things. So the best thing that you can do is to make friendships and have relationships with people that are in your area and also with people that are in other areas. You don't want to try to leave when the EMP happens because there's going to be a lot of people out there that are desperate. You want to keep enough supplies in your home in a secure area, and also you might want to keep some extra supplies for your friends. You might want to consider moving to a single location, or if your friends are close by, keeping in close contact. That way you can watch out for each other. You may decide to pick one location and all camp out there, and then pool your resources, which will allow you to be able to stay safe, stay fed, and avoid being a target. If you're by yourself, you have a really big problem. If you have no choice but to be by yourself, then you need to disguise your home. Make it as junky as possible, as scary as possible. Stay inside in an area where nobody can see you. And that's one case when you'll have to be sort of armed and ready. But for most people, having a few friends, relationships is the best asset you can have. I'll tell you right now, it's up to me. That's what I would do. That's one of the reasons I want to move from here. I have had a network of friends for many years, but one by one they've moved away. So now, well, don't have that many anymore. There's the old swimming pool they used to take me to when I was a kid. I guess it's still there. The last time I was in there, I think, was in 1980. By the way, here at Tamiami Park, you may notice they have some of these double guardrails. Back in the 80s, they actually had a Grand Prix out here. They had the race, obviously, downtown, Miami Grand Prix, and then one year they did it out here because I guess people complained too much about the noise and the disruption. So these railings are a remnant from that. It used to go all the way around. There's some more of them back there. I can hear the music playing. People are getting ready for their Noche Buena celebrations. And I'm so happy there's no cars here. It's amazing. Well, I'm gonna let you go. You can get ready, later on this year, and of course next year. Oh, there's some baby iguanas. There's some Florida coonties. Pretty nice. Got a bunch of native plants over here. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna shut this down. And I hope everyone's having a great week. And hopefully I'll be seeing you on Saturday morning for Live at 8 with Rick. And thanks for being here.